Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to Watch One, and thanks for logging on. Today we are looking at the Zenith El Primero Chronomaster Grande. You can see this 45mm two-tone Zenith El Primero on our website, watchyouwant.com. Purchase it there if you like, and if you enjoy these videos, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, Watch You Want Inc. Now you can see on my wrist, 6 1/3 inches, 16 centimeters in circumference. This is one of the largest members of the current Zenith catalog. Now 45mm across the round of the case, it's an impressive 53 from lug to lug, so it definitely has the full-size proportions of a contemporary complication, and 15mm thick. It's actually a little bit thicker at the top of the bezel than it is at the base of the case, so it does flare outward a bit. It's not the easiest watch to wear under a tight dress sleeve, but you should be okay with sport jackets and blazers. Now the watch has an impressive stance and impressive mass. On your wrist, even though it's principally steel, the watch has a gratifying heft that reminds you you're really holding an upscale luxury product. A big part of that heft comes from the same element that defines the character of the case: large swaths of metal with great nuance of detail. Now you can see that the lugs are massive in form, but they do help you if you have a small wrist by tapering downward a little bit, and they help the overall visual panache with a gorgeous beveled character line on both sides. Now there is contrast built in here because the tops of the lugs are brushed while the flanks are high polish, making for just enough contrast in conjunction with the warmth of the rose gold pushers and crown to soften the visual impact of the watch, lending it greater versatility. Now the strap is of excellent quality. You can see on both sides it pulls down unencumbered, allowing for easy curvature around the wrist. It's minimally bolstered, so while it is a formidable piece with a burly rectangular scale alligator, you can also see that it curves quite easily. And on its underside, like all modern Zenith leather straps, it has a very supple rubberized texture that grips skin easily and feels silky against the wrist. The deployant, from an ergonomic perspective, is excellent. It's also beautiful from an aesthetic perspective, being fully finished to a high polish inside and out, and because of the unique shape of the buckle, when it is closed and fully buckled, it does look like a pin buckle, low profile and classical, but with the security of a twin trigger deployant. It's not going to allow the watch to be dropped while it's being put on or taken off. The case and the dial, with gorgeous red gold accents, really define the character of this watch. Now I've had the black dialed steel variant on before, but changes to the dial, a metallic brown, almost chocolate sunburst with gold accents, as well as the gold elements external to the case, completely alter, really transform the character of this watch. What was a handsome watch with an impressive feature suite becomes drop-dead gorgeous, warm enough to melt the winter snow in Loloc, Switzerland. This watch is like a cup of Swiss Miss for your wrist. Delicious. And I have to say that all of the elements for once really do add up to more than the sum of the individual parts. The combination of the grained silver metallic minutes track, inboard of the brown metallic tachometer scale, surrounding the gorgeous composition of Grande chronograph minutes counter sunk into the dial, a moon phase that's also an AM/PM indicator via superimposed sapphire discs, and an open gold-framed escapement featuring beautiful iridescent purple and blue silicone movement components creates what can frankly be called a framed masterpiece for your personal enjoyment. Now the watch is highly complicated, but the great complexity comes from the aesthetic nuance. All of the gold-plated elements of the dial play beautifully with that metallic brown sunburst. Now, what you're looking at 6 o'clock is more than a little unique. You'll note that the El Primero, unlike most movements, actually sets in the second position rather than the third position, which controls the date. But as you move the watch through 24 hours, you can see that the moon phase continues its 29.5-day cycle small steps, but the subdial at 6 o'clock transforms in its tone as the AM/PM indicator beneath the sapphire moon phase disc goes from day to night and back. It's an impressive vista, and it adds a dynamism to the moon phase display that's simply lacking in every other iteration of this romantic complication. Now moreover, the watch does feature a double-digit Grande date at 1:30, and as I mentioned, this being an El Primero, the date does set in the third position, and you can see the quick set function at work. A double-digit date, a true Grande date. The highlight here, as compelling as the moon phase is the open escapement. Now this was Zenith's great innovation of the early 2000s. 90% of the impact of a tourbillon with 10% of the price. You can see the frenetic beat of the 10 beat per second, 36,000 vibration per hour, El Primero caliber 4047. With 332 parts and 32 joules, somehow Zenith manages to isolate all of the most important of those parts right here in this open aperture. And you can see the remainder of the movement on the case back, where it's classical El Primero goodness. A handsome movement. It's one of the few automatic chronographs that really gives you a lot to look at, that gives you the beautiful dance of the column wheel and its levers with absolutely no obstruction by rotor or winding bridges. You can see the Chronograph Drivetrain in progress, driving the chronograph seconds hand at center on the dial. Unlike a vertical clutch, the entire works is visible, from the source of the power to the action at center. And of course, that classical blued column wheel is just as crisp and impressive to use under the finger and to the ear as it is in motion. A tactile and auditory pleasure, this is a traditional chronograph with totally unconventional refinements. On the back, 52-hour power reserve, the standard in chronograph movements since its debut in 1969, an absolute pleasure to use and bomber tough. On the dial, delicate, refined, warm, and becoming in ways that few large watches are. Not just a big watch, it's a big and beautiful watch. You can see this Zenith El Primero Chronomaster Grande on our website, watchyouwant.com.